Thank you for listening to Lone Star Community Radio. This program was broadcasted and recorded live from the LSCR studios in downtown Conroe, Texas. Lone Star Community Radio is supported by listeners like you. Donate and sponsor today. For more information on getting involved with Lone Star Community Radio, contact us at lscrstudios@gmail.com or visit us online at www.irlonestar.com.
All right, welcome back to Audience of One with Andrew and Dick. Wednesday, 10 a.m. on Conroe's 106.1 and 104.5 and irlonestar.com. Of course, if you're into the podcasting, you can find us on YouTube, Facebook, Apple Podcasts. I'm your host, Andrew.
This is the longest intro.
Oh my God, I get tired of doing it.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking to myself, is he forgetting everything that he's saying right now? So he's just scrambling.
I literally go to bed at night.
Facebook's a word. Facebook is a word. We could say that, right? That counts, right?
Oh man, no. We've got so many different platforms, and I'm like, my gosh, got to rattle through.
It's silly.
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking we should probably do Spotify, Stitcher at some point. I don't know. I'm too lazy to probably set that stuff up, but maybe someday.
It's the spam mail I'm afraid of.
It definitely has increased for me since I started the show, no doubt.
It happens.
So how's the Boy Scout badges going? I know you're sleeping outside to earn those. How's that going?
Yeah, the next thing I'm doing is I was in a competition this weekend with the fine arts. So they had all these people playing the piano, vocal, violin, and I said I wanted to try. And these people have been doing it for 20 years since they were born.
Right.
And they wouldn't let me on stage.
No.
Yeah.
The nerve of them.
I know.
Gosh. Wow.
So that's my next badge.
Okay. Nice. Man, there were so many crazy stories that happened this week. So many things that I wanted to bring to air.
Yeah.
I traveled again for work. And, of course, anytime you travel, there's a lot of things that you can observe that are probably things that people can relate to that I really wanted to bring to this show. But you know what? All of that is going to have to wait.
Fair enough.
Because as promised last week, we have our first Audience of One guest.
Really?
Yes. So let's please give a nice Audience of One welcome to actor Steve Larkin.
Morning, guys.
Morning, Steve.
Morning.
How are you?
So, Steve, tell us a little bit about yourself. Why the heck are you here?
You asked me.
Oh, that's right, I did. That's right. I'm sorry.
We played golf with my son, and the next thing I know, you're calling and say, hey, what are you doing Sunday?
Yeah, I'm bothering you. Yeah, I think actually I have the undistinguished merit of being the last round of golf you ever played. After you played with me, you said, that's it, I'm done.
It may be. You know, I've had...
let's hope not.
You know, I'm old. And stuff keeps breaking.
I hear you.
You know, had I been to California to pick up the motorhome when we had played golf, so it was after my triple bypass.
Yes, I heard about that. Unfortunately, yeah, it's a rough go. You've had a rough go of it since the last time I saw you.
Well, yeah, a buddy of mine and I flew out to California, and I bought a motorhome out there, and we drove it back. And the last day, I'm cleaning the windshield of the motorhome, and I'm like, man, that doesn't feel right, you know. So we got back on Thursday, and I was supposed to go in for a checkup on Friday. I go in for the checkup, and the doctor comes in afterwards, and he said, well, Mr. Larkin, we can't let you go home.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, right.
That's never something. That's never a good thing to hear. Yeah.
And he said, have you ever heard of the term the widowmaker? Oh, gee. And I said, yes. And he said, I can't believe you're still alive.
Oh, my goodness.
And things got worse.
Yeah, when the doctor gives you that kind of diagnosis, I think you say whatever needs to be done. I can't believe that.
Oh, absolutely.
You didn't ask for a second opinion?
Yeah, I do, because that wasn't time.
I know.
Wow. Exactly, you know. Well, you know, and I believe
you, Doc, but...
Yeah, come on.
We need to go to another route. Let's just see it.
Really,
Let's just see it.
You know, and I've got another golf game set up.
Yeah,
You know,
we need to figure this
and
out.
You know,
I
if
don't have time for heart surgery.
Boy, let me tell you what, you make time.
Yeah, I bet.
And so, anyway.
Well, thank you for joining us.
It was my pleasure.
So, Steve, if you don't recognize him, I would say you're probably most known for, at least here recently in the last several years, the Hallmark Channel and playing Santa Claus.
And
which, by the way, you cannot name your child that, just in case you're
I
wondering.
heard that the other day.
Yes, that you probably heard that on our show.
Yes, I did.
Right here.
So, just because you play Santa on TV does not mean you can go out and name your children that.
No, and I have played a doctor on TV, but you don't want me to operate on you.
Right.
No, it's not. No.
So tell us a little bit about that. It's, I mean, I guess I don't know exactly. Maybe, let's step back just a bit here. We know that I just let the cat out of the bag and said that you were on the Hallmark Channel as Santa Claus. But let's step back a little bit and just, how did you get into this game of acting to begin with? I know it's probably a story that you have told a lot, but the audience of one here has not heard it. So tell us a little bit. I think it's pretty interesting.
Well, it's definitely interesting, I guess. I had a friend of mine years ago named Randy Wilson. He was from Bryan. Very talented man, and he was on Broadway for 25 years. Wow. And he decided, I've had enough of New York, and he came back to Bryan and started a theater company. And we went to the same church, and every Christmas, our church had a big fancy deal, and I was always the narrator, because you turn the lights out and give me a microphone, and I am the voice of God,
I noticed that about you. As soon as you started talking.
Yeah, right. Uh-huh. And so we were having a rehearsal. Randy was doing some drama thing for the show, and I asked Randy, I said, well, so Randy, what play are you going to do this spring? And he said, well, we're going to do Cat on a Hot Tin Roof. And I said, ooh, man, I was born to play Big Daddy. Ha, ha, ha.
Now, at this point, you hadn't done any acting per se yet, just
in
the
my life.
voiceover at the
Never
church.
in my life.
But you knew what Cat on a Hot Tin Roof is?
I did, as a matter, and I loved the movie. And Elizabeth Taylor at her most beautiful, perhaps. Oh my gosh, that white dress was fabulous. So anyway, about 2 months later, the phone rings, and it's Randy, and I said, hey, man, what's up? He said, what are you doing Saturday? And I said, I don't know. What do you want me to do? And he said, I want you to come down and audition for Cat on a Hot Tin Roof. I said, really? I was kidding, man. I was just, a little rehearsal fooling around. He said, no. He said, I don't want you to play Burl Ives. That's not the way. You don't have to, I want you to read the play. Read the play. Don't just watch the movie. So I read the play, and I realized that Big Daddy was a combination of the two most important men in my life. It was my uncle and my grandfather, both of them larger than life. So the theater was 25 miles from my house, and I don't know if I should say this but I bought a 6-pack of beer. And
Calm the nerves, maybe?
And I had drank 4 of them on the way to the theater.
Somebody else was driving. It's okay.
That's right, yeah. And so we get in there, and everybody who is auditioning for anything is in the audience. Ordinarily, you go to a casting director, and it's you and the producer and the casting director. So everybody sees your stuff on this one. So he calls my name. I go out on stage, and he hands me a script. And I said, what do I do? I don't know.
How long ago was this, by the way? What year would this have been?
This was been 1997, probably.
Okay.
96 or 97.
Okay.
So I said, what do I do? And he said, go be this guy. And I thought, what's the worst that could happen? They're going to hate me? So what? So I just let it rip. And got the part. And I thought, okay, well, this is cool, but it touched something in me. I don't know what. Yeah, now, my oldest son and I, and Jamie, if you're listening to this, I love you, boy. Since he was about 16, we had been like this, as quite often happens. At this time, he was like 21, 22, going to school in Austin. And he was coming over for a performance. And I knew he was in the audience someplace, but, you know, the lights, you can't see. And besides that, when I walked out on stage, Steve Larkin was back there. Big Daddy's in the house, and that's all I...
Transformed into character.
It was amazing. Because I didn't know what was... So there's a part in the second act where Big Daddy and his son Brick get in this awful argument. And I guess it was because in the back of my mind I knew Jamie was there or something. Anyway, I got so mad at this young man that was playing Brick. I grabbed him by his collar and I started crying and screaming my lines at him. And this kid gave it back to me. Wow. And we had a fight on stage. We go backstage. I mean, it is dead silence. Nobody, no hoo-ha and nothing. And I'm just sitting there with my head in my hands. So anyway, we go back on, do the third act. We come out to take our bows. I'm the next to take my bows. I take my bow, and up out of the audience, my son jumps up. And the next thing I know, he runs up on stage.
Wow.
And he grabs me and he said, "Daddy, I love you so much."
Wow. That was it. You knew you had something in you at that point.
No, I did not.
No, just the fact that it was that powerful
I
on
just
stage.
knew that, wow, this stuff will change your life.
Yeah.
Because it did at that moment.
Wow, that's amazing. That is a phenomenal story. And I guess at that point you were in teaching?
Yeah, I was principal at Bryan High School.
Principal. Wow. and in a way, if you think about it, teaching is, you kind of are acting in a certain way.
Are you kidding me? That's where I got all of my training.
Yeah, so I think the two kind of go hand in hand.
In a ninth grade science class. It was perfect. Because, ninth graders, they're a little older now. You can,
Sure.
And I was a big ham anyway.
No way.
Yeah. And they my kids always used to say, "We don't know what Mr. Larkin is going to do next."
So this was a natural transition for you. Okay, so you played the cat on a hot tin roof. Your Big Daddy. It unlocks something in you. This is amazing. You're like, wow, I didn't know I had this in me. Where did it go from there? This is the late '90s.
Yeah.
At what point did you say, "Hey, maybe I want to do something more with this"?
Because you didn't get paid for that role. That's community theater.
No.
So
no, there's it was just something that I knew that after that that I wanted to do this. I had no idea about doing it professionally, So I tell you how it happened. I came home from work one day. My wife was a principal at A&M Consolidated, and she says, "How'd your day go today?" I said, "Great. I quit." What?
Wow.
And I said, "I'm tired of working with people who don't like kids." And she said, "Well,
Which is kind of important if you're a
Yeah,
teacher.
I think-
Especially if you're going to be a good teacher. I think.
There's the
Yeah.
thing,
Yeah.
It's not, so she said, "Well, what are you going to do?" And I said, "I think I'm going to sit on the dock of our pond and drink beer full time."
It's good work if you can get it.
You can get it.
What year would this be?
This would have been 2001.
Okay, so a few years after your
Yeah,
first
yeah.
stage performance.
Yeah.
Have you done anything since then or in between?
Oh man, I did. Oh my God, one year I did 5 plays.
Okay. So
So-
after that, you started acting. Okay.
Absolutely, and did a lot of musicals and stuff like that.
All local to the Huntsville area, Brian? Okay.
And Randy was a gifted director, and we had at one point in that little community theater, we had 6 people on stage that went on to become professional actors.
Wow.
In Bryan, Texas. How does that happen?
Right.
So anyway, it just, and Becky looked at me and she said, "Why don't we go to Hollywood?"
Oh, hold on. So she's the one that suggested this.
Yeah, man,
Oh my goodness. Talk about supportive right there. I assume this was one of these scenarios where you were.
She had a gold mine.
That's right. She's going to
She's
ride
like-
coattails to Hollywood.
Yeah.
No.
That is interesting. I would assumed it was one of these things where you said, "Honey, I've got this acting bug, and I've quit my job." Because you said you quit your job.
did.
I assumed it was to go out and act. No, it was to drink beer professionally. And she said, "No, I don't want you drinking beer professionally. I think you need to go out to Hollywood and act."
Let's focus a little bit more. You're still young. You're still young.
You
in
can
a
drink
sense.
beer in Hollywood, but we need for you to potentially get paid for this now.
Yeah, so I was 56 years old, And I told her, I said, why would we go? And she said, let's see if somebody will pay you to be an actor.
Ding, ding, ding.
Don't be silly. They don't pay high school principals from Texas to come to Hollywood and be an actor. And she looked at me and she said, are you scared?
Uh-oh.
The spousal challenge.
She was
Well, it's
challenged.
funny you talk about this, and we're gonna put a link to your IMDb in the description, and you see how many roles you've had, and it's kind of neat, like because you've been doing it for a while.
Yeah.
So you have experience, and then this story you're telling leads all the way to that typical Hollywood story, and
If there is a typical Hollywood story,
Yeah.
Holy cow.
yeah,
So she said that to me, and it didn't make any sense to me at all. So for 3 months, I wore out the knees in a pair of blue jeans praying over it, and every time I'd throw, and I'd ask the Lord, well, what, and I just would get this feeling where he was up there saying, no, I want you to go out there. I want you to do
Wow.
So one day I called Becky into my office at the house, and on my computer screen, I had a beautiful white railing with Pacific Ocean in the background and a glass of red wine on that railing. And she said, oh my gosh, that's gorgeous. Where is that? And I said, that is from the balcony of your condo in Malibu that I just leased for a year. You'll see, we'll go, I won't get any work, we'll come home.
at least you had a plan. You didn't
Sure.
just-
Did you sell the
didn't
house
just get
here?
off a bus and be like, oh, I need to get headshots.
Yeah.
Where do I get
That's kind of
headshots?
it,
Yeah.
Did you sell the house here? Or you kept it.
No, we kept it.
Okay, that's
My
good.
son and his family moved into it, and we took her car, my truck, one guitar, and some clothes. That's it. We bought it.
That's not a long-term plan there. But at least you brought the guitar along.
We did. You're going to have something to do while I'm sitting there waiting for the phone to ring.
Sure. So you get to Hollywood, and I guess you start auditioning. I'm supposing, right? You're looking for things at that time, probably in the newspaper. I'm guessing?
Exactly.
Okay.
No, exactly. There
were no smartphones then.
There's a publication there that you get in all the auditions for independent films and stuff like this.
Mm-hmm.
So the first year I did 11 films. Didn't get paid for a single one of them. They were all independents.
Okay, so you out there make 11 films and knowing that you're not getting paid. I suppose at this point it's just to get something on your resume to help you out.
I just
for
want to know
future
how to
roles?
make movies because it's totally different from a play.
Okay, so this was just you were chalking this up to just straight up experience. You didn't care at this point if you were getting
I
paid.
wanted to know how, my first
Sounds like audience of one.
One of my first jobs, we were sitting around forever, and I asked the guy, I said, what are we waiting for? And the guy said, well, we're waiting for the electrician to come move that stinger. And I said, what's a stinger?
Yeah, glad you asked it because I was about
Yeah, and he said, well, it's that extension cord. We got to have a union guy move it. Where does it need to be moved? Well, just right over there. What the heck? I can do that.
Don't touch it, Mr. Larkin.
Oh,
Don't touch
my
it.
gosh.
Yeah.
You getting in a union guy's stuff now, and it's the only time.
I'm surprised they didn't pay you though. Usually, when there's a union involved, they have some type of.
Well, that particular one, I played Andrew Carnegie in Time Cop 2.
Okay,
Fine.
sounds great.
Well, the first time cop was fantastic.
This
so-
was a different guy, though.
Okay,
This
I know.
was Jason something Lee, and so I did. I got paid $75 for that one.
Wow.
Yeah.
What did you do with all the cash?
Bought beer.
Okay, so
Sounds like-
so we've got your 11 films that you've done.
In the
I guess
first year.
yeah, in the first year. That to me that sounds successful, even though there's no money coming in. At this point, is your wife getting a little weary, or is she still enjoying the
Are you
Hollywood
kidding me?
lifestyle at this point?
I made her a business card with her picture of her. She's asleep. She's very fair skinned, like you, redhead, and she's asleep in a lounge chair on the beach like this. And it said Becky Larkin, woman of leisure.
How did that go over?
Well, it went over real well, but we had a 700 square foot condo.
Mm-hmm.
And we were together for the first time in our lives 24/7.
That's true, because both of you were teachers and working, and so, yeah, full time.
Now,
So she needed to take some leisure time out on the beach, I assume.
but enough is enough. I finally, after about 6 months, went to her. I said, honey, one of us is going to have to go to really work. I'm either going to have to start getting a lot of jobs, or you're going to have to go to work because I'm going to kill you.
Well, good thing that didn't happen.
It did not, and she got a job as a principal. And
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so you guys were establishing residency at that point, it sounds like. And then, so what was your very first paying gig, if you even remember?
I still like the idea. She's like, I'll just be a principal here.
Well, she has a business card that's a woman of leisure. I got to get me one of
Come
those.
on.
It's hard to go from woman of leisure to principal, I would think.
Well, you got to be good. She's a
Well, those California schools are a little bit more relaxed.
Right, she can be both at the same time.
She can do both.
wow. Let me tell you, that's just wow.
Oh, that was good.
I love it.
It's a different world.
Well, we have listeners in California, so we don't want to upset them.
Yeah. Well, California.
He lived there. He's
I love
Right,
the
right.
place.
He worked there.
We'd
Come on.
still be there, except Becky wanted to come back to Texas. And I was.
the damn kids.
I was sure that I had an Academy Award right around the corner.
Oh,
And the awards are tonight. And I don't think you're going to hear my name.
So you had,
they are tonight, aren't they?
Yeah.
I told you.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
The Oscars had disappeared off my radar about 3 years ago.
Well, they're just,
longer ago than
they're
that
just-
for me.
oh,
I think it was when the Green Book won. I was like, okay. Yeah. I was like,
Yeah, they have. Well, award shows in general have not just for movies, music as well, daytime TV. They're just not what they used to be, and I think it's just because there's too many other things, there's too many other options. But
Yeah.
we don't need to go on that diatribe, I suppose.
But anyway, yeah. The first one may have been a movie called Portal to Hell.
Sounds
well,
ominous.
that's what I'm saying. I'm looking at your IMDb, and the titles of these movies are hilarious.
Yeah.
Like it says the first one you're in, it said it's about a stripper
At church.
at church.
Let me tell you what. This is it's actually been on I think it was on HBO. But a great story.
Based on
It's
a
an
true story.
all black cast
The
except
Sunday
me.
morning stripper.
Sunday morning
The
stripper.
Sunday morning. You
Yeah.
played Mayor Rimbolt.
Mayor Rimbault, played by Bruce. The big old black comedian, funny as heck. And then Ronaldo Ray, who used to be on Sanford and Sons. Okay. These guys, anyway, story of this guy comes from Detroit, this preacher, to this little bitty church in the South, and things are not going well at all. The congregation is dwindling. One day, Sunday, one of his
This is great.
members, Sister Wilma, as the choir is singing, Sister Wilma gets the Holy Ghost and starts taking her clothes off.
As one will do.
As one will do.
Yes.
I mean, she became
Guilty.
filled with the Spirit. Well, suddenly, as you can imagine, church attendance skyrockets. And so I
Surprised this
played.
hasn't been tried more often at
Yes.
some of the churches around here.
I played Mayor Rimbolt, and I hear all this stuff, so I show up with my entourage, and we see this, and the whole congregation starts taking.
This
their
is
clothes.
behavior unbecoming. I'm
Yes,
assuming
indeed.
that's the
Yes,
the
indeed.
tone you took, right?
I ended
So-
up dancing in my tiger stripe boxers.
Well, so when you
Wow, did you? So you must at some point have been taken over by the
I
Spirit
was.
as well. Okay.
The whole congregation, we all got up there and
this-
rocked.
Well, you can't blame her.
What I love about these kind of movies is no one really thinks like, that's the whole idea of a movie. It's supposed to be fun and like this isn't an everyday thing.
Right.
And what I love is the idea of you going in, getting the role, and you're like, all right, we're working, and then you come home and you tell your wife about this movie you're in, and you're like, oh, there's a scene where I'm in my polka dot underwear. And we're in a church.
And I'm dancing up on the altar.
And
Yeah.
and she's like, what context? Like,
What's
Just remember, honey, you wanted me to come to Hollywood.
That's right. You.
We are here now.
yeah,
This is what I do. I dance in my
I
boxers.
could be sitting on my dock with a cold one in my
Yeah.
It can make everybody think that's all I do is drink beer.
but that kind of stuff's funny to me, where you try to explain a story to someone else who's not
because if
involved.
you're not there, you're just gonna
like, what? Are
gonna
we
make your
talking
eyes
about?
roll back in your head.
Especially like the time and effort that to make a movie or to put on a play. It's just like everyone's so invested, but people who are not are like, okay, cool, that was a fun Saturday, and like they're gone. Like,
And these are not even a short film. These are not cheap projects.
Right.
It takes a lot of money to do this. Mm-hmm. But it was that was one of my favorite. We filmed in Compton. I had to get there before sunup, and I always had to park quite a ways away from the church. And I had my hand on an item in my briefcase as I was walking.
I know what
through.
item you're referring to.
Yes, indeed.
It's a Snickers bar.
That's right.
Sometimes you get hungry.
yeah.
Yes, indeed.
See that?
Felt there was a lot of hungry.
I
Yeah,
think that's well. Let's talk a little bit about the movie making world. Is like you don't get a trailer, you don't have an escort, those kind of things. But then certain movies, it's like the experience is just worth that.
Yeah.
And then other movies, it's like I'm literally getting a paycheck. I'm just gonna show up here on time, and then hopefully we get out on time. Hopefully.
Well, you better show up and be ready. You got to just show up, know your lines, and be ready. I am no longer in a hurry for this because once I became a member of SAG and everything, I realized you get so much money for 8 hours, and then time and a half for 10, and then double time after 12, and at 14 hours golden time is triple time. Man, I don't care. Drag it out
Right.
as long as you want.
Yeah, and I bet you a lot of actors are that way too. Yeah, so these productions end up dragging on much longer than they're supposed to.
Well, if you're waiting for someone to move a cord,
Right. Well, that's true. That's
I
true.
mean, you're kind of
This is why they put a pitch clock in baseball, by the way.
Yeah. You bring a book.
Just takes forever.
Yeah.
Do something. Bring your guitar.
I want to talk about your couple of Hallmark movies.
Uh-huh.
And one thing I love, because I love reading about productions of stuff. So, like for example, there's a great book out there. I forget the author, but it's about the production staff of Hercules and Xena, and how when they first started that in New Zealand, how they're able to turn around 4 episodes a week with 4 different directors, same sets, and how they like really did it. And it made me think of Hallmark does that too. It's like I feel like they film like 6 movies in one location, and then like it's like, oh, the mayor's house happens to be the husband's house in the next movie, stuff like that.
Yeah. They may move a few pieces of furniture around, but those they have a Larry. What's the guy's producer? I can't think of his name. Anyway, he has a whole production facility in Simi Valley, city streets. I mean, you walk down the street. And it's an amazing. You're in a real city, but you step around the corner, and that building is this thick.
So those little dreamy Hallmark towns aren't real? Is that what you're telling me?
No. It's all in your.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like they have.
You're crushing me here.
They got it down. They
do,
down.
and they produce so many movies
Yeah.
every year, and it's they've got it down to a formula to where they can pump these films out. I'm sure.
Well, if you watch it for Christmas movies, it's a boy and a girl, and they were in love. It's the same thing.
It's over and over and
There's
over.
nothing wrong with that.
But
there's nothing
it's
wrong.
a classic
There are
story.
people like you either love them or just
Right.
They need to throw curveballs occasionally. Like do like Romeo and Juliet in the snow, and then everyone's dead. Like, what is this Hallmark movie?
well, I've said for a while what they
This is
need to
crazy.
do. If they're really looking for ratings, they'll do just their normal formula. Everything's going according to plan. At the very end, they're about to have their first kiss, and he just pulls out a knife and goes.
Yeah.
Oh, he just freaks out. What just happened?
And then screen fades.
Yeah, screen fades, right? People would lose it, but Hallmark would definitely get some ratings
Well,
there because it would be so far
wanna
out of what they normally
they
do.
did something like that with Lifetime with Will Ferrell and another comedian actress, where they were in like a Lifetime thriller, but it was Will Ferrell, and like you couldn't take it serious because it's Will Ferrell, but the whole plot was a serious plot. But my favorite Hallmark movies are the ones, if you remember back in the day, they used to, like Hallmark didn't have a channel. They had the Hallmark movie on Mondays or something like that.
Right, they'd have specials.
Right.
Specials. So
Right.
you actually had some legit actor, like big production. It wasn't like the Christmas movies where they're making 20 of them a year.
Right.
And now I think the last one I saw was the Christmas Train. It had like Danny Glover for like 5 minutes.
Wow.
And then it had McDermott. I forget. And then Brad Paisley's wife was in it. The lady from I don't know. I'm just going on.
Oh, she was in a sitcom.
Yeah,
about a decade ago. I think.
and
Yeah.
it's-
I can't
Those
remember.
movies are always great because you see they spend all this money, and it's just like this is the same thing. You could
It's just
you could have just done 10 more other movies like this, and I think that's why they don't do those. I forget they call them like Hallmark Legends or something. Whatever, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I believe so.
yeah.
Yeah.
And there's some big actors in them.
Well, I
There
was
are.
very impressed with the two that I've been in. They were first class productions.
Yeah.
And it was,
Well, how about this? Let's hold on to Hallmark here till after we take a break. I think we're about at the halfway point here, if I'm right here.
we're
And
getting to the drugs after this.
yeah. Well, we're gonna hit it in the break and
The
then
dark
come back.
side of acting.
Yeah. Well, I figure we'll talk a little bit more about the Hallmark, and then I also want to hear a little bit about your time in Hollywood and some of the neighbors that you had. I think you've got some pretty interesting neighbors and friends that you made during your time, and
I
we'll
did indeed.
we'll cover that. So we'll take a little break here and come back. Audience of one.
Change in the household name, but ain't too much change. We in the game, yo, but not to be vain. I refrain from salt grains to season up my name.
You are listening to Audience of One with Andrew and Dick, right here on Conroe's 106.1 and 104.5. Also available worldwide on YouTube, Facebook, and Apple Podcasts.
All right, welcome back to Audience of One with Andrew and Dick. We are still here with our guest, Steve Larkin. When we left, you were about to start telling us about your experience in the Hallmark movies playing Santa Claus. I can't imagine why you were cast for Santa Claus, by the way.
I don't either. You know,
Makes no sense to me.
It makes no absolutely no sense at all.
So tell us a little bit about that. Obviously, it's a role that you probably auditioned for, and
The first one I did. I auditioned for it, and never heard anything. So I got on my Harley, and I was going to take a trip up Pacific Coast Highway to Seattle, and it's just such a beautiful
Why do
drive.
you seem so much cooler than Pat? Like all of a sudden you're like, oh, I got on my Harley and I'm just doing this beautiful ride.
Pat is a mutual friend of ours,
Yeah.
by the way, who
Yes.
happens to be Steve's son. So
Yeah.
if you don't know who Pat
Hey
is,
Pat, what have you done that's so cool? Like, do you have a Harley? Probably not.
he has a truck with a pink piece of tape on the side.
Were
of
you
it.
Santa Claus?
Sorry, Pat.
Probably not.
Sorry, Pat.
Sorry to interrupt you. It's just the
Well,
more you talk
he
about
can
it,
handle it.
like,
I guarantee you, he can handle it.
well, you know what? I'm not gonna lie. When you first started talking about your history with in Bryan being a principal, and then you talk about it's almost like you have another life that you did when you started this career of acting.
Yeah,
Does that make because
No.
I feel like the story would be totally different if you were 20 and you discovered acting.
Oh, I'm so glad that I didn't know that I could do this.
Is it? Yeah,
Because it is. You got to understand, when I go in out there and for an audition, I'm auditioning with guys that I've seen on TV and
Yeah.
in the movies my whole life, and they're going out for the same parts I am.
Yeah.
So if you go out there and you're 20 or 25 or whatever, you're waiting for that one break that'll make it. And if you go out there like I did when I was 56,
Yeah.
you're still looking for that one,
Doesn't matter.
and so how long do you want to hang on to it?
Well, you bring up a really interesting point, Dick, because it's the one time he hasn't
Yeah.
never done this. This one
Yeah.
time.
Mark it down, folks.
Yeah, right. Let me write that down. That obviously movies require different types of roles: old people, young people, good-looking people, ugly people, blah blah blah.
Ugly people, huh?
Yeah, there's a role for you, potentially. And myself.
Business is good. For those of you.
So do you think that perhaps the fact that you started later in a career as opposed to 20 years old, that sort of dictated maybe some of the roles that you would have got, including like Santa Claus, and how different this maybe would have been if you discovered the acting bug at 20?
Yeah, and of course, at 20, this was a no risk thing for me. Mm-hmm. Becky had retired from teaching. I had retired. We moved out there, and we both got pensions.
Well, see, that's what I'm thinking to myself. It's like, how many people have done what you've done? I feel like there's not that many people that would say, you know what, we're going to totally change the trajectory of our later years, in a sense. Like, we're going to Hollywood. Why are we going? Because I want to be in a movie.
Except that I never said that.
Well, well, I meant more of just like when people hear it, they're like,
I was the one saying, "Why are we going to Hollywood again?"
Well, you needed to be reared. You had to be like, let's go, and because most people are like, let's just go to this island and retire and be on your dock and drink beer. But
my daughter Stacy, when she, of course, when you're from Bryan, Texas, and College Station, and your principals to the high schools, and all of a sudden where's Mr. Larkin? Well, he's in Hollywood being an actor, and people would.
He's lost it.
Yeah,
he's a hippie. He's a hippie.
See, but Stacy said, somebody asked him, "Your parents are in Hollywood?" Yeah, and Stacy said, "Yeah, my folks aren't afraid of anything."
Yeah,
but we're too stupid to know.
Well, they're smart. Y'all arrived after the Me Too. No, I was kidding.
Yeah, if I had known how difficult it was, I wouldn't have gone.
Well, you know what's so bizarre with that is you see, because I've been a lot of friends with the community theater here. We have two community theaters here, and a lot of them do like it's almost like they're a part of a band. They'll be here for a year, and then they'll save money, and then they'll go out and try to go to Atlanta or go to the hubs to get jobs, and then they'll come back and they'll still act, and then they'll go back out there. And it's almost like the industry has changed completely.
It's a tough gig. It's a tough gig, man.
Especially where there's not like a central location anymore. Because that was the benefit of being in Hollywood. That's where everything was made. So it's like, I can do commercials. I can do theater. I could do sitcoms. I could do specials. I can do movies. I can do. But now you're going to Compton for a movie, and you probably had to pay your way to go over there.
I got in my truck and.
See, that's what I'm saying.
Loaded up and went to Compton.
Well, I was growing up, I made movies, and that was one of my.
I'm sorry, what?
I made little movies. All right,
I was having a segment.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, that's the first thing I learned was how hard it was to get people, and how much you really have to cater to people. And that's what I learned because I did part-time jobs on like HD TV shows here locally, and then I was like, you really have to have a lot of money to make this run smoothly. Yes, right. If you don't have any money. You don't know who's going to show up. Don't know if they were like, I'm here for the sandwich. Well, you better make sure you have the sandwich here on time.
That's right. That's right.
So, because that was part of my job was to get the coffee and everything.
Because those guys that they're the extras that work on these movies.
Yeah,
they're making. Well, when I was out there, they were making $57 a day plus lunch, and their big thing of the day was. Guess what we have for lunch today?
That's because that represents a pretty good portion of their salary.
That's why. That's exactly right. And it's just
we're getting tuna today.
Yeah. And when we did
3-day-old tuna
sandwich.
When we did Charlie Wilson's War, those of us actors, whatever, we're literally having king crab legs and prime rib. And the
charcuterie boards,
bless their hearts, are up at a food truck trying to get a sandwich and a glass of iced tea.
The commoners.
Yes, indeed.
Should have been an actor.
That's right. Should have been with the big boys.
That's right, yeah. So you got this role of Santa Claus. You said you missed the first audition. You didn't get it, but the second audition, I guess, came up for Santa.
Well,
and you said, I'm going to try this.
I was...
or your agent,
Anyway, I was on my Harley. I was headed towards...
That's right, I forgot about the Harley
I
story.
did too. I was headed towards Seattle, and I had stopped in Cambria by Hearst Castle, and I was sitting on the beach watching the elephant seals. They're incredible. And my phone rings, and it's my agent. Oh, my God, where are you? I just left there 2 hours ago. I'm up at Cambria sitting on the beach.
I'm being a man of leisure at the
Yeah,
moment.
what?
Thank you very
What?
much.
You know, I'm on my motorcycle. She said, no, you got to come back. Why? You booked I booked this Santa Claus movie.
And you don't remember doing it?
Or
you got your dates mixed up or
I
something?
know. I never knew. They just called and said,
okay.
want this guy. I said,
Oh, they picked you out. You didn't even have to audition
I
for
didn't
this
even
particular-
audition. They had seen my other thing and said, well, let's use this guy.
Awesome.
So I said, crud. All right.
Now
so,
I got to work.
so I got to get back on my Harley. And I said, well, I'm going to take the back road. All right. I'm not getting back on the. So I get on, turn off this little 2-lane and blacktop, and then it turns into a 1-lane blacktop. And then it's a 1-lane dirt road, and I stop myself. I better get out my map because and there's a herd of elk over here. You know, I am not in L.A. I hear a car coming, and there's a Jeep coming down the road, and it's the mailman. And this guy is about my age, got a beard down to here, really long hair, covered up in tattoos. And I'm there on my looking at this map, and he said, "Hey, man," he said, "Are you lost?" I said, "No, you got to have some idea where you're going to be lost." And I said, "I have no clue." He laughed and he said, "Well, what do you?" He said, "What do you?" He saw my Texas license plate. He said, "What are you doing out here?" And I said, "Well, I'm an actor. Blah, blah, blah. I got to go back and do a part." He said, "Oh, what's the part?" And I looked at him. I said, "Well, actually, it's one they should have hired you for, because you look just like the guy. It was Santa Claus, you know." Nah. So he gave me some directions. He drove off, and like 3 minutes later, he turns around, comes back. He hands me this card. He said, "Hey, we're having a party. My club is having a party. Why don't you come?" So it was a motorcycle club.
See, I told you. Cool.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, so I called a buddy of mine because he had heard of this club. And I said, "Well, what can you find out about this?" I said, "Yeah." And he called back in 5 minutes. "Oh, my God. That was Tony. He is the founding president of this particular club. And oh, my God."
And he's a mailman.
And I'm thinking, who? So we show.
Am I getting in over my head here into something?
Yeah.
Uncharted waters.
Well, yeah, I show up at this place. It's a public place, but we show up there on Sunday for a ride. And this guy comes up to my buddy. He said, "Hey, is Steve Larkin here?" And he said, "Yeah, he's right next to you." He said, "Hey, I'm Dean. Tony couldn't be here, but he said that I am supposed to take care of you." Blah, and I looked at
Things
Nick.
were about to get weird.
Yeah, I looked at Nick and I said, "Let me tell you, I can see where this is going, but buddy, I am too old to be somebody's prospect." Shining your bike and getting beers for you. No. I love you guys. It's nice. We'll play. We'll ride. But no, this is not my style. No.
Wow.
That's what they intended it for you to be a prospect.
crazy.
He really liked me, and he wanted me in his club.
Recruitment
But
must be.
there's
hard.
only one way you
Yeah.
can get in the club. You got to be a prospect and work your.
I guess so.
I thought this was going to be a fun story where like you get a tattoo or something and then
Well,
you got a roll out of it. You're like,
Yeah,
oh, hey,
no.
He
I
would have
did
had a
get
roll.
Like,
Yeah,
it
I
would've
did.
been-
it would've been
I
an
did get a
acting role.
tattoo, but all I got was a staph infection.
yeah. It's like, oh, this guy's, the head of casting over here. He rides with us. I'm like, oh, wonderful. Networking on the Harley.
Yeah,
But not that. Okay.
yeah. And it was,
So we really are going to talk about drugs.
You're right.
yes. I mean, because that was one of these this particular clubs, and I will not say the name unless they come looking for me. But that's how they finance their stuff.
There you go.
So Santa Claus,
Yes, indeed.
you were on your way back and got recruited
And so
by a biker gang.
and I mean, come on, you can't make that.
No, you really can't.
Can't make that stuff up.
I just want to know the thought process of that guy. Like, oh, this guy would be a good prospect. Like, why?
Well, Tony and I, we just really hit it off well.
Well, yeah, I get that, but then I guess that's the way his world works. It's like, hey, we get new people. I can't be their friend unless they're a prospect, and they go through the process. All ages welcome.
Yeah, right?
Yeah,
So,
Fresh blood.
yeah.
Yeah, here, let me see some of it. Yeah.
so would this have been the 2018 Christmas at Pemberley Manor, or
That-
would this have been Rekindling Christmas? I'm reading.
No,
from the
actually,
IMDb
so that
page
was
here.
3. So there was also Help for the Holidays.
Oh, I missed that one. That's right. Oh, so this is Help for the Holidays.
Help
time.
for the Holidays,
Okay, that's
yeah.
2012.
Well, let me
time.
ask you
Okay.
this, because looking at our IMDb, it says you're
scrolled
credited
down
with
that far.
26 roles. I feel like it's more,
Yeah.
and that's just the
Yeah,
internet's
and,
always
they
wrong.
don't have, do they have any of the theater stuff on there?
No, I think it's just they
Short
have
movies and
they have a weird
TV.
rule where it's like you can't be like the man. You have to actually have a character name, I think, to be credited.
If you scroll down, does it go down to theater?
no, it just,
Representation?
no,
there's
unfortunately,
probably 40 or 50 of
it
those.
says actor, and that's it.
So you definitely get recognized as being Santa. I know when we were on the golf course, there were people coming up to you going, "Oh my gosh, this is Santa Claus! This is Santa Claus!" Obviously, that role must have been a defining role in some way,
Yeah,
and fun to play.
It is. For a long time, and I'm stupid, but I wouldn't let my agent submit me for Santa Claus because I didn't want to be typecast.
I knew that's where you're going. Yeah.
And then one day I realized that
Oh, I
Santa
don't
Claus
care.
money spends just as good as
That's right.
the murdering rapist that I
Right,
had to
right,
play.
that's
So it was. Yeah.
How about your wife appreciate the transition to being Santa Claus instead of the murdering rapist every time?
Unless it's bad Santa. I
That was
suppose.
now, the bad guys are really a lot of fun to play, but it's just
Taxing.
it's like I did a lot of horror movies. I love making them, but I can't watch them.
Yeah.
I'm in it, and I can't watch it. I know it's fake, but I can't. I don't want to watch it.
So when you were out there in Hollywood, I know you mentioned this a little bit last time we were together about some of the neighbors and friends that you had out there in Hollywood. I imagine you've met all kinds of interesting people, but I think you actually were friends with some pretty interesting people that were your neighbors.
Well, yeah, I used to walk the beach with Ryan O'Neal, and we
Long
would,
walks on the beach with Ryan
long
O'Neal.
walks
That's
on the
really
beach.
sweet.
And I thought it was interesting because we'd always talk about. He knew I was a former teacher. We'd always talk about raising kids, and Ryan is not known for his parenting skills. Both of his kids, but anyway,
We'll leave it at that.
He was a wonderful, nice guy. My next door neighbor, literally, we looked off our balcony onto his home. Our 700 square foot place looked over his 15,000 square foot, 3-story mansion. That would be Mr. Dr. Dre.
Interesting.
Interesting. Yeah.
So I think you had a run-in with him one night, right?
I did. Actually, it was in the afternoon. I was laying on the beach working on my tan, and a bunch of people came down from his house. I raised my head, and it was him and his brother and kids.
When you say him, you mean Dr. Dre?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so they've got this fishing pole, and they clearly do not know what the heck to do with this fishing pole.
Okay.
So I get up and I said, "Hey, y'all having some problems here with this fishing pole?" And he said, "Yeah." He said, "I never did too much fishing in Compton." I said, "Well, okay." I said, "Well, what you got here is a spin cast. Here's the bail." And I showed them how to do it, made a few practice casts, and here's how you put the bait on. "Oh, thanks, man." And so they got it out there, and I went back down there, went back over to my blanket and laid down, and not too long, I hear this yikes screaming, and oh, look, and they got a fish. And all right, that's cool, and I'm opening my eyes, and again, and Dre is holding it up like this, and he's looking over at me. Okay, well, we got it. What do we do?
Now what? Now what? Exactly.
That sounds like me.
Yeah. So I went over and extricated the fish from the hook, and all this.
And now you're best friends and you exchange Christmas presents.
Yeah, it's the kind of place. Becky's out on the balcony working on her stained glass, and she hears Dre next door say, "Hey, Snoop Dogg, move your car, fool." She looks out. Here comes old Snoop Dogg walking.
Wow.
Yeah.
Was that your only run-in with him, or did you have a...
Actually, he had a 4th of July party one time that the area of the beach next to his home for about 100 yards was empty. And it was owned by Mr. Sterling, who owned the Clippers.
Oh, yeah,
basketball.
Roger Sterling, yes.
Yeah. And he rented that for the 4th of July. And 2 days ahead of time, these 18-wheelers started pulling up on the Pacific Coast Highway and unloading. And on this space, they set up 3 gigantic Arabian tents with Persian rugs on the floor, golden chandeliers, big overstuffed couches on the beach. And so the first tent you go in, there is Dr. Dre and his wife holding court, greeting guests. The second tent is unbelievable food and all this kind. And the third tent, of course, is the booze tent. So my son Jamie and I and my agent were down walking on the beach. We were watching all the comings and goings. And I said, man, I sure would like to drink some Dre's booze. Just
because it's his.
Yeah, exactly, right? And he said, Daddy, there ain't no way. And I looked at him, I said, hold my beer.
Love it.
And I go up there, and he's got one of these guys standing at the entrance, and I went to him, and I walked by the guy, I said, man, Dre shows a hell of a party, doesn't he? He said, yes, sir, he sure does. And I walked in, and the guy said, what can I get you? I said, we have a Tanqueray and tonic. He poured me a Tanqueray and tonic, and Jamie and Terry are out there, and I hoisted a glass to
So you did the equivalent of just holding a clipboard. It's supposed to get you in anywhere. You just acted like you've been there. You knew what you were doing. You've been there 1,000 times.
You know what you're doing.
Santa, excuse me, Santa coming. Santa coming.
Excuse me, actor coming through.
Actor, right.
Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy. So I didn't realize that Dr. Dre would have a big house in Hollywood. That's shocking to me.
Yeah, right. And
billionaire now. Good.
When
grief.
he's working the tunes over there, it'll make the light fixtures in your house vibrate. I'll tell you for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah.
I bet. Well, that is really cool. And Snoop Dogg too, huh?
Snoop Dogg and Courtney Cox and Jennifer Aniston down the
Wow.
Well, your period at living in Hollywood, how long were you there?
8 years.
Wow. So 1 year goal turned into 8.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
And like I said, Becky just wanted to go home, and I get it. And so we came home, and I said, look, I went to my agent, can I go home? He said, yeah, we'll call you. And they do.
So you're still answering the phone for potential roles and things. And I imagine COVID probably did a number on things in terms of acting and trying for roles during that time period.
In a way, because it helped guys like me, because at the time, and even still, auditions suddenly became all video. You out there, it's a big advantage to be in the room with the casting director.
Sure.
You can get feedback, but if everybody has to send in a videotape, then you've leveled the playing field with everybody. So we
auditions are kind of interesting. It seems like it's the only interview for a job where you're actually doing the job. Because when you're applying for a job, you're interviewing. It's tell us your strengths, tell us your weaknesses, and you're just BSing with people. But when you're actually trying out for a role in acting, you might actually even be reading a part of the script, doing the actual job.
You are reading the script.
It's very different from any other.
Because they will send you
job interview.
photocopied sheets of the sections that they want you to do, and then you have. And here's the worst part is you'll get a call at 6 o'clock in the afternoon, and check your email. There's an audition for you. You need to have it in by 11 tomorrow morning.
Wow. So do you aspire to continue doing this, or is this now? Are you kind of winding down?
I'm kind of winding down, but if a good part comes up, yeah, sure.
He seems flexible.
Right.
Not.
Well, when I called him the other day to confirm the interview here today, I asked him, did I catch you at a bad time? He said, no, I'm just out in the greenhouse. I'm like, oh man, he's got a greenhouse. So what are you growing out there? You got a hobby on the side?
I don't know, just vegetables.
Oh, just vegetables. Okay.
Just vegetables.
Wink, wink, nod,
Well,
nod. Got it.
we are in Texas,
Just because you lived in Hollywood for 8 years.
I didn't know. So you do woodworking
He's actually
and gardening.
He's actually really in that club.
Right. He can't say
He
anything.
can't
though.
say anything.
Right. The motorcycle guy.
Yeah, wink, wink. Yeah, I still love making furniture and gardening and riding that hog.
It's kind of weird. You have all these hobbies, and you seem to be good at them. How do you have? Like, did you even raise your kids?
Yeah.
I mean, Pat turned out all right, but I mean,
Yeah, and it's just stuff like
your wife must be amazing.
I don't know how it happens. I know I got started in woodworking. I was on my tractor, and I was smoking a pipe, and I'd set it down on the fender. And I turned and did something, and I drove off. Where's my pipe? And I looked back, and I had run over it and mashed it to smithereens. I said, well, I bet I can make one of those. Well, as it turns out, so I started making pipes and selling them. I get a couple $100 for these things on.
Oh, wow.
So,
Yeah, they were. I was
Nice.
ordering fancy woods from Asia and all this kind of stuff. So I told my wife, I said, there's a thing called an Alaskan chainsaw mill that you hook these things up to your chainsaw and you can cut planks, And I said, I'd like to do that. And she said, well, how much is one of those? And I said, $500. She said, you can't spend $500 on that. Oh. Well,
Yes,
in
ma'am.
the meantime, I was hired to host the Texas Forest Products video show or whatever, and we had axe throwers and all these.
Oh, yeah.
But there was a guy there selling sawmills. So you know where this is going. I did not buy a $500 Alaskan chainsaw mill. I bought a $10,000 Hudson.
My.
It was there.
Yeah.
It was there. You hands on,
Available
Yeah.
for purchase.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, wow.
So you've gotten your use out of it then, I
You
bet.
remind me of my friend Kurt, where he has some land and he always has, like, he bought a backhoe, and I was like, what is a backhoe? And when I see it, I go, why do you have this? Like, you can't even, like, this is what you see construction people doing.
Yeah.
What are you going to be digging up? He just wanted,
Whatever I want.
Yeah, whatever he wants. And
Whatever needs to be
and
done.
you have this sawmill, I can just do whatever I want.
I love doing stuff like
Yeah.
that, And
Do you still do any of that kind of stuff? Is
Oh,
it part of
all
your
the time.
Yeah.
all the time? Yeah.
See, that's what kind of stinks, having like an interesting dad, because it's like, can I ever be as interesting as him?
Well, the thing is, especially when you get old and retired, man, you better have a lot. Have a lot of stuff set aside.
Well, I think that's why this acting thing was so like, more people should do that, because that seems like an adventure
It
in
is,
itself.
and
So it's
yet
like,
every one of us is an actor.
yeah,
Every one of us is an actor.
you just gotta be a good liar. That's basically what it is.
They say acting is living truthfully under imaginary circumstances.
But I couldn't.
Wow.
I would never
That's
want to
pretty
do.
deep, man.
I would never want to do that though.
Oh, it's so.
So much time. Like, they were like over here at the Crichton Theater. They're like, "Oh, can you do sound for some play about Pacific something?" And I was like, "Okay, yeah, I can do it for a day." Like, "Oh no, we need you for 4 weeks,
Right.
every day."
Every day.
And I'm like, "And I don't get paid? No, I'm not doing that."
Yeah, you said everyone's an actor, and I think you're right. Anyone can act. Everyone can act, but not everybody can act well. There is
No,
a big
it's on the
difference,
director. It's
right?
all on the
So-
director. It's not the actor. It's the director.
And you know when you've got a good actor and someone who can't. So you say everyone's an actor, maybe so, but not everyone is
Well,
good at
and
it.
we can name people out there that are big movie stars, but they're terrible actors.
It's weird how that happens. Right place, right time kind of thing, huh? Yeah, they got a lucky break. Maybe the right look. Maybe they just have the looks, and that's carried them.
That's what I got to think happened with Keanu Reeves.
Oh no.
Well, I think he does a good job selecting roles now that's like it works to his strengths. So
Absolutely,
it's like,
he
you
got
mean
to that
I don't.
point and-
I have 100 words of dialogue. I'll do that movie. I don't have to really do anything. I just have to look.
That's right. Maybe
So-
ride one of my motorcycles
Yeah.
in or something.
Wow. Well, you mentioned something about raising kids. You have three.
Three,
And as we mentioned earlier, we're friends with I think this would be your middle.
Yeah,
child?
no, Pat's the
youngest. Pat's the youngest.
Typical.
But your daughter.
I'm the youngest too.
Yeah, Stacy.
Stacy. apparently a heck of a golfer.
You might say that.
Yeah, I've heard a little bit about this. So
How does that happen with your kids to like become good at something? Like, do you just, when they were young, you do the Tiger Woods dad thing, or like you're
No,
golfing?
I didn't do the
you're,
Tiger-
You're golfing every day.
No, I did not at all. I mean, it started out as this is fun. This is a game.
Yeah.
You know, and in Stacy's case, she tried every other sport and she sucked at them all.
That's hilarious.
except golf.
And then the first time I put a golf club in her hand,
It just made sense.
it was amazing.
So she played collegially at Texas A&M.
Texas A&M, full
And
ride.
from there, she has continued on a career in coaching and in golf and everything else.
Yeah,
correct?
she when she was in high school, she started washing carts, working at the municipal golf course. When she graduated from A&M, she became the general manager, and then she moved from different clubs around Texas. When we moved to California, she became the general manager at Elkins Lake up at Huntsville. And then the guy who was the executive director of the Texas Golf Association had heard about Stacy and interviewed her for the associate director or whatever. And so she took that job, moved to Dallas, and then he left. So she's now the executive director of the Texas Golf Association.
But a heck of a player in her own right.
Let me tell you, she is. And I don't know if I'm supposed to say this or not, but I think she's finally old enough. She's just turned 50, and I think she's going to play in the senior women's U.S. Open this year.
That's got to be fun.
Wow.
And she has a very good friend of hers who is a member of the LPGA Hall of Fame who's working with her, and she loves to compete.
Yeah, Pat has said that she is really, really good. You said earlier that she is a plus two handicap. Good grief.
Yeah. And like I said, her style is if she's playing against you, even if it's me, her dear old dad, she wants her foot on my neck.
Love it. Absolutely love it.
Well, I get that.
Maybe I can go get a
from
lesson
you.
from her.
I get that kind of attitude from you. You gave her that attitude.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe so.
No surrender.
Yeah, but
No prisoners.
You know, all of my kids are much more competitive than I am. Much more competitive. I just love to. I'm competitive with myself.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And I tell you guys, and for all the golfers out there, you'll know, if all of a sudden you wake up one day and you can't play golf anymore,
Go to Hollywood.
it's
Yeah, it's kind of a frightening thought, especially if it's something you've done for a long period of time. And
Buy
taken
a
up-
sawmill.
Yeah, buy a sawmill
yeah.
and start acting.
Make some pipes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's probably true with a lot of people who've done something their entire life, and then all of a sudden, when
And
it's taken
just-
away from them and it's not on your own terms, it can be probably
well,
fairly
because
sobering.
you're waiting to retire so you can do this every day.
Right. And they're like, wait a minute.
Right.
I can't. Well, that's what I love. Like with bowling, is you do 3 games in league, right? But then when you do the tournaments, they have to do like 9 games or whatever.
more,
You're like,
depending.
this is hard.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, that's a 16-pound ball.
Yeah.
You wasted all of your good golfing years doing this dumb acting thing.
Yes, right,
Gosh.
right. You know, and trying to educate kids.
Yeah,
what is
what was that
up
all
with
about?
that?
And Brian. And Brian.
Of all things, yeah.
I love it.
Well, is there anything else you want to tell us here about acting? Something interesting that we should know about you?
I don't know how interesting it is. My favorite close encounter of a third kind, fifth kind, whatever. I walked down, wanted to get a cup of coffee at Starbucks. So Starbucks was about a quarter mile down the road. And so I walked down there, and they were slammed. I couldn't get in. So across the street, there was a Coffee Bean. And so I went over there. They're pretty crowded, but they have a real nice outside place. And so I got my coffee, and I was looking for a place to sit, and all the tables were full. But there was one table that was just one guy. Evident he was behind a newspaper, and he was the only guy at the table. So I said, "Excuse me, sir, would you mind if I shared your table with him?" And Sir Anthony Hopkins put down his paper.
Oh, my.
And he said, "No, mate, here, have a seat."
Wow.
And he stuck out his hand. He said, "Hi, I'm Tony." I said,
I know who
"Yes,
you
sir.
are.
I know who you are."
Wow.
I'm actually playing you in a movie.
Yeah. And so we got to talking. He said, "I can tell by your accent that you're not from around here." I said, "No, sir." I said, I'm from Texas." And he said, "Well, what in the world are you?" He said, "You live out here?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "What are you doing out here?" And I said, "Well, actually, I came out here to see if I could get some of the parts that you're turning down." He said,
That's great.
He said, "Oh, you're an actor." I said, "Well, yeah." And he said, "How old are you?" And at the time, I think I was 60. And he said, "How long have you been doing this?" And I said, "I did my first play when I was 50. "And you came out here when?" And I said, 4 years ago when I was 56. And he paused. He said, "You know you can't do that, right?" I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "You can't wait until you're 56 and then all of a sudden decide you're an actor and come to Hollywood." He said, "Are you getting work?" And I said, "Yeah." He just laughed. He said, "You can't do that."
Au contraire, my friend. Shows you what Anthony Hopkins
Well, that's what I'm saying.
knows.
The story, your story is very interesting because it's kind
is.
of one of those things where you're like, I've never heard the statistics are not in your favor when you're talking about all this stuff.
Yeah.
And here it is.
But all he wanted to do was talk about me. And that is one of the keys, I think, to being a good actor, because you're always observing people, and because there may be a piece of that guy someday that I want to add to a piece of me in a particular role. And most actors are very curious, and
They're really annoying.
it was
They're always working.
yeah,
I'm like, we get it.
yeah.
Especially
Very nice.
kids. Like, I really hate having the kids come in here. They're real loud and obnoxious. And I'm like, I really hope I don't have a theater kid. It's going to be terrible.
I did. I worked with Faye Dunaway and saw her have one of her legendary meltdowns on.
See, I like that kind of stuff, too.
Oh, it was just
It's not my kids.
really, look at this.
Front row seat.
I'm telling you, and
Yeah, because you hear a lot of these stories about actors and things behind the scenes, how they can be legendary a-holes and
it's because
they're really
people
nice
let 'em.
people. Yeah, and
Well, that's what the great convergence of technology today. It's like you can't get away with a lot of stuff, especially like the abusive behavior in Hollywood. Like you can't get away with it anymore because people easily can record it.
Yeah.
I'm looking at Christian Bale. He got busted for yelling at somebody on set, and it was like it was a
Right.
tangent, and
Right.
somehow someone recorded it. And
well, I tell you one more, and it just because I was doing this movie with Faye Dunaway called The Seduction of Dr. Fugazi.
ooh,
Is this a big screen, silver screen movie?
It was.
Yes.
I
that
read.
title alone makes me want to see it.
I don't. Okay, do not see. I've read 2 reviews on it. One said it was one of the greatest art films ever made. We went to the Cannes Film Festival, and the other review was it was the biggest piece of caca that anybody, and which was pretty much what I had. So anyway, I go up, and I know got this
crazy.
that I got this.
This is great.
This movie with Faye Dunaway, and I'm so excited. And I get on set and ready to do the first scene, and the director comes to me and said, "Well, we've changed the shots sequence. We're going to do this scene first." And I said, "Oh, okay, fine." And I go, "Oh, it's me and Faye and this other." Oh, jeez. So we get out there, and the scene goes like this. There's 3 of us. One girl says her line to Faye. Faye says her line to me. I say my line back to Faye, so on and so forth. All right, roll sound, roll camera, and rehearsal, and action. She says her line to Faye. Faye says her line to me, and I look at Oscar-winning Faye Dunaway, and I go, the director goes, cut. I go, whoa, woo, geez, what was that? Oh, brain toot, sorry. Let's try that again, all right? Roll sound, roll camera, action. She says her line to Faye. Faye says her line to me, and I go,
We're now 0 for 2.
Now you're wasting time.
Yeah.
Faye comes, in my ear. She said, "Sweetheart, what's the matter?" And I looked at her and I said, "You're Faye effing Dunaway. That's what the matter is." Yeah. And she threw her head back and started laughing. And she and I just gone on famously ever since.
After that.
Because
that's all
I
it
just...
took. A little bit of honesty.
You're Faye Dunaway. What do you mean? What's the matter is?
That's I can imagine that's a difficult situation to be in, looking across and seeing such a familiar face that you've seen on the screen before and being so intimidated. And you're like, wait a minute, I'm supposed to be on a level playing field with this person now. Wow. I can imagine how the words fail to come to your mouth.
Yeah, she's got one of those little metal gold statues on her, and I've got one, but it's plastic, and a friend of mine gave it to me.
Well,
Not
can
quite the
you
same.
imagine those scenarios with the famous people and like you're on a scene with Tom Cruise and you're looking down at him.
You're looking
down at Tom and you're like,
I believe that was a
let's
short joke.
see where this magic is.
I bet that.
And then he brings the magic and you're like, okay, I get
There
it
it
now.
is.
Yeah.
Now we know why.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, she was amazing. She would walk in with a pair of opera glasses in one hand and her script in the other, and her entourage would be around.
Yeah.
And when the guy says roll sound, the glasses go here, and one guy catches them. The script goes here. Somebody else catches them.
The consummate professional.
And
That's exactly
Faye
right.
Dunaway has left the building.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Well, Steve, we appreciate you joining us this week, man.
Boys, I had a good time.
You had the honorary,
I'm not done.
prestigious award of being our first.
Yeah. I got a
guest.
question for Steve.
Hope this doesn't shut you down.
No, you know what? You have another question?
I have a question
Well,
for
go
Steve,
for it.
mainly because with actors, they really have no like break system. They're just 100% going for stuff. And what I love when I meet actors, they start like there's certain ones that go into like, oh, the theory of acting. What school did you go to? Did you go to the New York school? Did you go to the Russian school of whatever that is? But you at the start of 50 plus, I think that's when people kind of see it like this guy is not a traditional actor because the proper training wasn't there when he was younger. So how do you feel about acting jumping in? And did you identify like, oh, these people clearly have a train of thought taught by this person? Or
Well, I got the perfect response to that. I was doing a play in L.A., Bus Stop. Mm-hmm. And I was the only L.A. actor that was hired. Everybody else came from Chicago and New York. And we're taking a break one day in rehearsal and sitting around, and they started talking about where they had their training. One guy had gone to one guy had gone to Juilliard.
Yeah.
One guy had gone to the Royal Academy. And they're going around the circle, and I'm going, oh God, they're going to get to me. What am I going to do? So finally, he said, Steve, where'd you get your training? I said, the public school classrooms of Texas. He said, what? I was a school teacher. I had to learn how to make them laugh.
Yeah.
How to, do all of this stuff. And, and I get to play. I'm a fisherman. So I'd come in, I'd go, oh God, I got a stuffed up nose this morning. I'd turn my back and I'd reach in my pocket and I'd pull out a green plastic worm and stick it up my nose. They go, okay. And then turn around to the kids and I had this green slant,
yeah.
And so they said, so anyway, this one guy who went to the Juilliard, he said, you mean you've never had an acting lesson? I said, no. And he looked at me, he said, don't. They'll ruin you.
Well, because acting is one of those things that you really don't, there's not like a perfect answer or a perfect path. And then you get some people who are insanely talented, but you never see them. And then, like, you go to the local theaters here, you see some really talented people.
Let me tell you what. They're awesome.
Yeah. And then you can definitely tell people who are not talented.
And I think it's just, I don't know.
It's
I don't
crazy.
know. The best directing I ever had was from Randy Wilson. That very first time I stepped on stage, and I said, "What do you do?" He said, "Go be this guy."
Yeah.
And that's what I try to do.
There you go. What's your hat? What is that?
Pardon me?
Your hat? Luau Larry?
Luau Larry. It's on Catalina Island, and I have a dear friend and his wife who lived on a 56-foot lovely boat out there. and we go out there for a week at a time. And this is just a great little bar there. And yeah.
Okay, I was just wondering. I didn't know.
Yeah, there may have been another golden story in there. You never know.
Well, there probably is.
Yeah,
one
me
or
and
two.
Dre were out on this boat one
We
time.
had to drink 14 beers
Yeah.
while
You
doing
never know.
tequila
I know it
shots.
makes it sound like I'm a lush, but that's not true.
That's the only way I get that hat.
Yeah, that's right. That's
So-
right. That and $12, and you get the hat. You know.
That's great. Well, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me, fellas. I
What does the
appreciate it.
future look like for you? What's the next? You're going to be an astronaut or something? Like, I feel like there's something more in the tank.
You know, I don't know. You know, I survived this whole heart thing, and so the doc said you can do whatever you want to do, and so I don't know what I want to do.
So now you're going to be in the Iron Man?
No,
That's
I think Becky and I are just going to get in this new motorhome that we haven't driven anywhere yet,
Yeah.
And just go.
and just go and just be gone.
Well, you're welcome back to the show anytime. You may get a text from me saying, "Come back in. We
just
want
tell
to talk
me,
again."
and I'll tell you.
Some more adventures
I'll-
from Steve Larkin in Hollywood.
Well, we should just
Thanks.
get Pat on here and compare them the whole time.
Well, yeah, Pat. Yeah, we already put us on together.
Well,
Yeah.
we'll see. Maybe we'll have to put that together.
I like Pat a lot.
Yeah.
You clearly have done a good job raising kids. So
Well, we got lucky. It's hard, as everybody knows, raising good kids is not easy, and it's just hard.
and Brian.
What's your thing with
I
Brian,
just
man?
I have a bunch of friends that are from there, and I love Brian.
Try Mayflower, Arkansas.
Oh my gosh, that's a real place. I think I've heard of that place.
Yeah, well,
How many people? Like 2,000 people live there, or
yeah,
something like
little
that.
bitty tiny
Yeah.
on Lake Conway.
Yeah, Mayflower. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Steve.
Thank
And
you, guys.
I look forward to checking out these movies, especially The Seduction of Dr. Fugazi. It looks insane. I like the
look
stripper movie. We're gonna have a whole movie thing.
That's right. We're gonna have a Steve Larkin watching.
If you can find them, good luck. And if you can, I'll bring my copy over.
That's funny.
Sounds good. Excellent.
Thanks.
Well, thanks again, everyone. Audience of one, thank you for listening. Wednesdays, 10 a.m., right here on Conroe's 106.1, 104.5, and irlonestar.com. Of course, you're going to make fun of me. YouTube, Facebook. Yeah, Apple Podcasts.
Audience of one.
Yeah. All right. Bye, guys. Until next week.
The saga continues. This I won't